do you anticipate we'll go?
Half an hour. I'd love to kind of keep it, you know, nice and punchy and interesting. Yep. And yeah, sounds good.
All right. I'm just going to go tell the boys that that's how I might be.
Yeah.
And
okay. Hi, boys. Of course. I know, he's grown up so much.
And this is Cohen.
Hi, Cohen.
He's our special
I knew you in your mummy's belly.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you? So good to meet you. Such a big boy.
We've had a haircut today, so it looks pretty good.
So nice.
You go play with Atticus?
No. See you soon.
See you later. Okay, so bye.
All right. So
bye. All right, Atticus.
See you soon.
Come and get Cohen, please. We're going live.
We're going live on Facebook. All right then. So it's okay, Kate, really. You can be here. It's not a problem. Like, you know, it's like I told you, we've had babies go through this and babies that weren't necessarily very quiet. So it's all good. So I'll start, I'll introduce and we'll go from there.
Okay. You're going to be famous.
Yay! Hello there. And here we are again for our final creation story of today. Very exciting. And we've got the fabulous, actually, we need to say hello, Cohen, who we can't just have Kate and special guest. Let's put in here special guest Cohen, but special guest that might be coming in and out. We'll see how it goes. Thank you so much for coming in and saying hello and to agree, Kate, to share your story, because honestly, I always say this about you. And in fact, I say this about many of the patients in your similar situation in our program. You women are some brave, brave women, you know, that decide that you're going to do this thing, whether it's because you haven't found the partner of your dreams or, you know, you've decided that you're going to tackle it on your own. And to me, honestly, I'm in awe of you for that, because I don't know that I would be as brave. I honestly don't know. So tell us a little bit about how your story unfolded. You know, it's such a wonderful story.
If Cohen lets me actually sit on the screen, that would be good. So I have two children, Cohen, who's just turned 3, and an almost 11-year-old. I conceived my first child while I was in a same-sex relationship, and not necessarily that leads to intubation, but
whoop, we've muted. Let's unmute. I think, Kate, you're still muted. Hang on.
I don't know what button Cohen pressed then, but anyway, it's the remainder of 2020. He knows how to use Zoom.
Yes.
So I ended up doing IVF to conceive my first child after several miscarriages.
Mom, what's it up there?
Okay, where are you going to sit?
In here.
Okay, sit up there.
In here.
And several IVF attempts to conceive my older son. Unfortunately, my relationship broke down, and I ended up separated and just not feeling like my family was complete, and kind of not knowing where to go, although having the experience of doing IVF. Mom! This is very tricky, isn't it?
Well, this is a child for you. I think that we need to put it into perspective, right? Like, this is really what people are signing up for.
So I knew that IVF was a potential option for me, but not one that I jump into lightly.
Yeah.
Hey, Cohen, did you want to go and play with Atticus?
No.
No, you're going to stay here. Okay. But you need to sit there so Mummy can talk.
No.
I
can't see.
But I can't.
So just you can talk and we can hear you and we can see Cohen. Okay. How about that?
So
This is a fun
so I
game.
headed back to IVF to conceive Cohen. And unfortunately, that was another long journey of multiple IVF cycles, another miscarriage, what's it called? PGD tested embryos.
And isn't it interesting, in terms of your particular case, one of the things that always comes to mind for me, I mean, I know that in total you ended up having five failed IVF ICSI trials. You also had a situation where you had the majority of your embryos were actually PGS tested, PGD tested embryos. And I remember at the time us talking about this and you saying to me, well, they're all tested, they're all normal. And the doctor's just saying, let's just keep, just keep transferring these embryos. But it's like, hang on a second, the second you have a sperm and egg, you've got an embryo, they're PGS tested, we should have a positive pregnancy and a baby, right? So it's that whole challenge of like, hang on a second, how come? You want to go again? How come that's not happening, right? And so that was a really important question when we first started working together.
And I think we also spoke a lot about how I just trusted the process and the doctors, and I believed a lot of lines like it just takes time, or it'll be the next one, or and I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but when I found you, thanks to Facebook, I'd done 3 back-to-back cycles, and I was just exhausted, and I had no ability to. I was not getting any space around decisions of attempts or how I was doing it or what I was doing, or I was just like on this train.
There was no education really, was there, about how you could help yourself and what would be better, or giving you options of different ways of approaching it, for sure.
Yeah, and I felt like I knew a lot because of my experience and the thousands and thousands of dollars that I spent on IVF. And then I met you and I was like, I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing. And it was so challenging, yet so wonderful to find you.
And you can, and you can be absolutely honest, because one of the things that you did say to me before was like how angry you were about, all of the things that I was telling you to do, and
Yeah, like it's pretty confronting, and I think it's also confronting because they are, some of the things that you suggest are really simple things, and you go, well, how can filtered water make a difference, or how can random supplements that are not random but supplements make a difference? And I was not, I think I felt like I was angry at you, but I was really angry at myself because I hadn't even touched the surface of what knowledge was out there and what I could do for myself and to potentially create a child in the right circumstances, in the best possible way. I think the other thing that people kind of struggle with when they meet you is that you suggest 120 days of preconception
preparation,
and you're like, 4 months doing nothing, come on. Like,
we know very well it's not nothing, right?
Yeah, if I'm not doing something, then I'm not trying, and you feel like you've missed an opportunity, or you missed a month, and it's part of that train that I was on that just says you just keep traveling, going. You keep paying the fare, and you'll get to your destination. And I clearly wasn't going to get there. I absolutely know that I would not have Cohen if it wasn't for you. And that's why I'm here today, to tell my story, because I'm so grateful to you my son's playing with my ring lights, so there's not a party going on here. Well, it kind of is a party going on here.
Yeah, it is a party. It's a great party.
Yeah, and so I wanted to give back to you and something to the community that so supported me during the process, and hopefully something that I say will resonate with someone in a similar position, or just something I say might help.
Yeah,
help
absolutely.
people.
And you know, the one thing that I know, because obviously having done this work for 20 years and having had many of these conversations, you know, post process with lots of people, and before we used to do it just over the telephone because we didn't have this capability of being able to do video, and it's been a little while since we've done this, that I thought, oh, it'd be nice to do it via Zoom, and you know, we can actually see the beautiful babies and all of that. But one thing I know for sure, and so many of our patients say the same thing, it's like, gosh, I heard that story, you know, that story that you shared, Gabriela, of blah, 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 you know, and they go and they recount the story and they say to me, gosh, that was the thing that I needed, not to give up, you know, to keep going, to keep asking questions, to keep doing what it is that I needed to do. And if it wasn't for you, even if they don't end up being a patient in the clinic, how often I get messages from people, you know, as a private message on Facebook to tell me that, gosh, you know, thank you so much that you did this or you did that, because that didn't, you know, I didn't give up because of that. And so, Kate, one thing I know for sure is that your story, whatever and however it's told, you know, by you, it inspires and it helps people to realize that they're not alone, that there are things that they can do, and there is more, you know. And most importantly, sometimes people get to a place that it's really dark, as you know, right, where you get to a dark place that you really just can't see a way out, and then something that just, you know, is shown to them in a different way makes them realize that actually, hang on a second, I need to push on, you know. And I remember the very conversation that we had that made you feel like you needed to push on. And so, you know, thank you for being here. But yeah, so look, I'm still in awe of, you know, I remember the very first conversation that we had together, and how much you had done, and how much you were doing on your own, and how much you really truly wanted this. And I knew that I really wanted to help. You know, I knew that I wanted to be there for you. And, you know, it's amazing how it all turned out. But keep telling the story, because your story, it's not, you know, there's such turning points that I love it. It's wonderful.
I'm not sure where I'm up to, so I'm a bit distracted by
No. So we were basically talking about the fact that you had your IVF cycles, or you had quite a few IVF cycles. You then, by that point, had found out the fertility challenge, or I think you found the fertility challenge, and that you were, you know, you were annoyed and upset and angry about the fact that there was all these things that you weren't told that could help you, you know, before, when you spent thousands of dollars to actually change your results and change your outcome, you weren't told these things before. And I can totally get how frustrating and angry making that would be, because it's like, hang on a second, surely, you know, if these things are so real. And, you know, we had one of our patients share, she's a medical doctor, and she said, you know, Gabriela, the miracle wasn't what you share and the things that you ask people to do, because that's science. And it's like, yeah, it's evidence-based, it's science. But the miracle was finding you. And actually that made me cry from a whole nother point and a whole other reason, because, you know, how often when we are in situations in our life, and even not even talking about fertility, but we're in situations in our life that we just want some kind of sign, some kind of, you know, guidance, or some kind of understanding of where to look for things that can help us, and that we would do anything in those moments to go, look, just give me a tiny little, you know, light that I'm going in the right direction and I'm going the right way, and how hard that is to find. But then when we actually get to a point where we go, okay, I'm open to looking at this, I'm open to exploring it further, it's amazing how much more we gain from doing it that way, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
I remember saying to you, I think, like, I mean, it was on Facebook, obviously searched IVF or infertility enough that Facebook.
Play guys.
Oh, you can play cards, yeah. That the algorithms brought us together, but had, at the time, so obviously Cohen's 3, so it was a little while ago, the fertility challenge was a little bit different. It was probably a little bit more intense, and half of it I spent being really angry, and the rest of it I was like, oh, okay, this is a key moment. This is something I can do. This is something I can think about. And I signed up for the program straight after the challenge, because my thinking had changed, and I knew that you were genuine, or you are genuine, you are honest, you have such a big heart, to put up with my stuff that I was throwing at you. I just knew that I was safe, and I knew that was the place where I needed to be. And then I think I did dip again and go, this is crazy. Why are all these relatively simple things so hard? Or I'm not sure, my internet's saying it's unstable, but hopefully we can still hear me.
It's okay. You're all good.
And then you jump into the program, and there's so much more. And the community that you meet there, which you do in the challenge as well, but more so in the program, provided so much support to me. And as a single parent, I really needed that, and was really grateful for that. Ultimately, I have to do it all on my own, but it's nice to have people around you that will be straight with you and talk you through processes. And it was one of the first times I felt really listened to. And that, how long's the questionnaire? There's quite a few pages.
Well,
in the questionnaire.
it's now about 52.
Yeah, a short questionnaire.
Sure,
and you're like, yeah, but it makes you realise how much detail you're going into, and then you can say stuff that's, should I be wearing a red jumper? Like, is that a good fertility colour or whatever? And you will answer that question because you feel like it's relevant, because there is so much detail in what you cover. So I was so confident that everything was being covered over.
And I think, Kate,
is so much more. And I'm
no, you can keep going. The internet is cutting out a little bit, but I was just going to say, I was just going to say that the red jumper is probably not my favorite color. Go for the blue or something like that. I'm joking. It's it's this whole idea, because people have, if you get out there on the internet, right, you will have people talking about all sorts of things. My crazy making things is the pineapple core business, like that's going to improve implantation. Well, actually, people, let's just say it's an old wives' tale. Okay. And like that, there are so many things. Wasn't it, Kate, you posting the fertility statue, this, that we have a pregnancy group, Pregnancy and Beyond group, which is our community, and it's our beautiful patients. And we stay together, we stay connected, forever. But the funniest thing, and I know that this wasn't in our path of conversation, but it was so funny that I had to comment on it. Kate, a couple of days ago, posts in the Pregnancy and Beyond group, Gabriela, you really would want to know about this fertility statue that somebody's selling in their local marketplace on Facebook, and oh my God, it was hilarious. The thing had a massive member, I will say, looked very unused, I will also say. But yeah, it was hilarious. And so, this is what happens a lot of the time. Is
selling it for $200.
Oh, only $200, what a bargain. Jeez, you should have snapped it up. Should have snapped it up to resell it. No, to resell it, Kate. To resell it.
No. I just send everybody to you.
Oh, it's so sad, but this is the thing, it's so sad that, all jokes aside, that people, because it is such a difficult journey, and because people feel so, I don't know, that they need to have faith in something, people start to clasp at straws and try and, oh yeah, it's going to be this exercise that I do that's going to get me pregnant, or it's going to be this fertility bracelet that's going to get me pregnant, or whatever. And without realizing that actually there are some very specific things that you can do when you know what they are, you know, and when you are understanding, or you have an extra concept of what needs to happen. So, you know, I think that part of it was where for you, Kate, it was like, oh my God, how is it that I've come across this only now? But isn't it amazing that you actually managed to come across it at all?
Mm. And at the time when I was able to take on board some of that stuff, and we still had to work a little bit to get me along the way, as I was still frustrated and angry again at myself, but probably came across as I was angry with you. But you know, there's so many good people that you have in your team that are able to guide you through the pathway, and you know, all those people contributed to me getting to where I'm at now. So I went on to I did my 120 days preconception period, and reluctantly, and then went back to do IVF. And then unfortunately that wasn't successful again, and I was very confused, and the team was very confused about what that meant. But knowing, and it took, you know, there was a couple of days there where I was just like, what the hell just happened? How did this happen, kind of thing. But the team picked me up, put me back together, supported me through that phase, where...
And this is the thing, actually, one thing that's important, you know, here is the fact that so often when people are going through this journey, there is a lot of impatience, as you know, right? And one thing that we know, and we've known this for a long time, but sometimes holding people off trying again is very, very difficult. And the thing about it is that, you know, it takes 8 months for the egg to mature and to be at the best possible stage that it is. So if you think about it from this perspective, that, you know, there are 2 egg development cycles. There is the first, so primordial follicle, which is all of the eggs that we were born with, that we will ever have. Primordial follicle to primary follicle takes approximately 4 months. Primary follicle to ovulatory follicle takes approximately 4 months. So it's an 8-month egg maturation cycle, right? And so then we had a situation where we're like, at 4 months, no matter what, we're going to go and we're going to do this procedure, because it's like, we've got to do it, and we've got to do it now. I don't know if you recall this, but I did say a few times, Kate, give yourself a bit of extra time. You know, give your body a bit of extra time. Allow your body to do what it needs to do for a little bit longer, because what we see and what we know is that when we do that, we get better results faster, right? But I also get that impatience, you know, I also get that, oh my God, I've just got to get in there and do this because I'm running out of time. And, you know, and so, and sometimes we have to actually let you go and do the thing that you really want to do, so that you can then be open to listening a little bit more, you know, and that happens frequently, actually, more frequently than you would think.
It did 2 things. And interestingly, I conceived Cohen at the 8th month that I was part of the program. So there you go. There's a little anecdotal stat for you there. So I hadn't put those 2 things together previously. But I also came to the point where, with the support of you and the team, I realized that I was going to be okay. And one thing we didn't talk about is at the beginning of my IVF journey, the second time, I really disliked myself. I thought I'd done something wrong. I thought my eggs were bad. I was really good at beating myself up. I was really good at making it my fault. And yeah, I was like an expert level negative talker. And that, you know, that's something that you talk about often generally, but more specifically with me, we pulled that apart and went, what is that about for you, Kate? What is, and eventually I got to the point where, before I did conceive Cohen, I realized that I was going to be okay if I didn't conceive. And that was a really unusual space for me to be in, but part of the process and something that many people actually do have to find that peace, and sometimes it's after years and years in the journey. So I was 43 when I conceived Cohen.
And one thing that I will say, Kate, you know, that I want to add in terms of how you approach this, because a lot of times people will come onto the program and they will kind of like, they just want to ignore the emotional stuff and the inner work, right? They just want to ignore it because it's like, I just want a baby. Let's just ignore all of that. But you recognize through our conversations and through multiple, you know, sessions that we had together as a part of the program, you coming to book club, you coming to emotional release sessions, you know, we continuously, you know, obviously coming into your consultations with your primary practitioner, with your emotional support coach, with, you know, the whole team, as you said, there were lots of places where we could have these conversations that enabled you to go, okay, how else can I be approaching this, and becoming even more open to the idea that actually there was nothing wrong with you, that you're perfect and you were beautiful and, you know, amazing just the way that you were, and having a baby sure would be. And I remember this very conversation that we had, that, you know, where after your failed IVF cycle, you were so distraught and you were so upset about, you know, the fact that I've done this and it hasn't worked, and what is, you know, what else is there? And we had this conversation about the fact that, you know, you were actually whole as you were, and you could accept that way better than when we first started talking, you know, when we first started going through and having those conversations. And I think that for you, the way that I see it, that transformation, that piece actually has been, you know, the most miraculous of this entire experience, because I can't imagine that you would have been very happy, baby or no baby, with holding on to those mindsets, you know, that you had before.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I really began to like myself and see my strengths, and have that strength acknowledged by others, which you know, helps you again, gets you to the next level. And yeah, I mean, you rattled off a number of people, that practitioners and processes that the program offers, and I was lucky that I was able to grab as many of those through the process. I don't know that there was one, or I mean, I think all of them just got me where I needed to be. So
but you see, you showed up to do the work, and I think that that's really the important thing. And this is something, Kate, by the way, that I think you need to give yourself credit for, you know, ongoing. It's that showing up that makes you unique, you know, in actually being able to do this, for sure.
A hungry child who, can you get an apple?
Yeah.
It's just the fun part of the Zoom call, is it? Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, so then basically, you know, you were saying before you were 43 when you conceived Cohen. And, you know, there was obviously the cycle that didn't work. We went back to the drawing board. We went back to figuring out, okay, what else was there, and fine tuning and tweaking, which we always do. But we also knew that there was an aspect of time, right? We also knew that we needed to optimize what needed to be optimized. And this is one thing that I talk about all the time, you know, with my patients and, you know, with people in general when it comes to fertility. People get so fixated on an age, you know, it's like, oh, the second that I become X age, that's it, my eggs are done. I need it, because this is what we're told, right? We're told that if you're over 35, your eggs are no good, you need to go into this, or you need to go into that, or whatever. And the reality of it is that actually, first, let's take a step back. Have we addressed the biochemical issues that are getting in the way? You know, have we addressed the things that need to be optimized? And often the answer is no. And we're kind of thinking that that should work irrespective, but we know that it doesn't quite work that way, right? So yeah, it's definitely an interesting challenge, to say the least. But so then what happened next, Kate? Tell us more.
I just muted myself quickly to
No, it's all good. I know you're dealing with a hungry baby or child now.
Yeah, so then and all along, I guess you also talk about a range of possibilities and options that people have, you know, from egg donor to, you know, different sperm to
embryo to, you know, you name it.
To, yeah. And so, and again, like having to process that is difficult, and but with support you're able to do that. And like I said, I kind of got to this sense of peace. But I realized he's got strawberries, everybody, so we're all good. I realized that I had other options, and and again, I think something I probably should also mention is that my IVF clinic was supportive of what we were doing together, and actually my fertility specialist had a number of patients, or shared patients with you. So there was a groove that a few of us, I'm in Melbourne, were on together, and that kind of made it easier, I suppose, to kind of talk about these things. But yeah, the having different options and different ideas. So in the end, I was running out of money, and IVF's really expensive. And there are other options in fertility treatments that I suppose that people can use. For me, I was able to go down a different route, not do a full IVF cycle, a completely unmedicated, natural conception. So that was amazing. And I remember sending you, and I don't know how many of these you get, but sending you pictures of
10 million pregnancy tests.
Yeah.
Because one is never enough. One pregnancy test to confirm a pregnancy is never enough.
Yeah. So I just sent you a few pictures of pregnancy tests, and you're like, when did this happen? And because I think at that point you thought I was taking a step back, but your team knew where I was heading, so we just hadn't caught up, I guess, in that 2-week wait. And here we are. And you know, it was again being supported through early stages of pregnancy, where I'd had previous losses, and just that anxiety by your team, and with other support that you offer at that time was also amazing. And my pregnancy was not easy, but you know,
never is easy.
Just grow a child's for easy. It was, you know, relatively calm process, and I had a natural delivery, very fast delivery, but natural delivery, and here we are 3 years later. And you know, there is, I know I said it before, but there's no doubt in my mind that I wouldn't have got here without you. And I'm ever so grateful for our connection. And most of the time we see each other over Zoom, and it was great to see you once when you came down to Melbourne. And
yes, I love, oh my God. One thing I cannot wait for is to be able to actually visit, because we, as you remember and as you know, I used to go all over the place and have lovely, you know, sit-togethers with our patients. And, you know, like we did something in the US, we did something in Sydney. Melbourne obviously is quite around the corner, but can't wait for those days to be back. And that is for sure. But we gave and this is the amazing thing, you know, like so many of the patients that I've treated over the years, I have had patients that I have treated that it wasn't until like years later, after they've had 2 or 3 babies with my help in the clinic, that I actually even knew what they looked like. Because when we started doing telemedicine in 2003, it was phone. There wasn't video. Even Skype came on much, much later than that. And so, you know, we basically used to talk on the phone, and that's how we got to see each other. There was no such thing as video phones and, you know, like all of these types of amazing technologies that we have these days. I mean, in 2013, when we went solely into a virtual format, we started to do consultations using Skype, and obviously now, you know, it's much different to that again. But it's amazing that we get to not only connect, but we get to be in each other's lives, and, you know, and we get to be in each other's lives for such a long time, which is forever, really. You know, after you've had one of our babies, as I always like to say, we are a family. And I think that that is such a beautiful, heartwarming thing. And you spoke to this before, which is especially in a situation where you are doing this on your own. I think that it's so special to have a village and to have a tribe where, you know, you can come back to, and you can always be supported, and that, you know, we're always cheering you on and wishing you well. And, you know, I love it still when you come to book club sessions, and, you know, we get to be able to connect in that way, because it helps us to, you know, not only stay connected, but it's a gift to my life as much as, you know, obviously what I do has been a gift to yours. So thank you for being in my life. Thank you for allowing me to serve you. And above all, thank you for really just, you know, being so coachable through this process, because if it wasn't for that, Kate, we wouldn't be here. You know, you really, you knew that there were things you needed to learn, and there were things you needed to do, and you allowed us to support you. So it's magical, really. You know, I get goosebumps just talking about it, because I know that we were meant to be in each other's path, and it's beautiful that we found each other.
Absolutely. And I was going to say I probably wasn't the easiest coachable patient.
Trust me, I get much, much worse. But, you know, the reason that I have been able to develop proficiency in let's say helping people to see things differently is because I get infinitely worse than you, Kate. No, you were fine, my darling. Look, I think that this is the other thing too, you know, when people are hurting, and this is what I signed up for, right? In terms of sometimes when people are hurting, it's hard for us to be able to know how to direct those emotions, you know, and that's the reality of it. That's the truth. And sometimes, sure, we need to be realigned, and sometimes, and, you know, at any point we will say that to you, of course, in the most loving and caring way. But it's important to know that you are in a safe space, and that you can share how you're feeling and how things are, and that because it's real, you know, it's real. Nobody is perfect. Nobody. It's not easy. Oh, I can still hear you.
I never ever doubted. I never doubted the love and the care, and I was going to say motherly, but it's more like a big sister, and you were always there with random questions, or, you know, like thoughts or colors of tops, or, you know, whatever it is, that the level of detail, the level of care, the level of heart that you have is just extraordinary. And you know, there's been times where I've seen people doubt that about you, because you give stuff away for free. It's like, well, if she's giving it away for free, then what's that about? But it's because of the care. It's because of the genuine love and want that people discover this information, because I wouldn't have gone without you. And I keep repeating myself, but I truly, you know, that's absolutely how I feel.
Look, it's
I'm so glad that we met, and I'm a better person because of the process that we did together. As well.
Oh, my darling, it's, you know, it's an honor for me. You know, when I say that it is a privilege and an honor for me to be able to serve, it truly is. You know, I mean, I do this because I absolutely love it. It's the truth. You know, think about it. Who would do anything for 20 years if they didn't absolutely bloody damn love it, right? It's just like, you wouldn't. You'd be doing something else. So, you know, and I have arrived at a place, I guess, in my career, in my life, that I no longer need to do it, but I do it because I absolutely adore what I do. And I couldn't, like, honestly, imagine if I wasn't doing this. Jesus, like, it would be way too much trouble in the world.
No.
So, so it's best that I keep busy doing what it is that I love, you know. But I think that for anybody who doubts that there is an answer to, you know, trying to conceive without success, going through IVF and failing, being over 40, because I often talk about the fact that most of our patients are nearing or over 40, and, you know, that still, irrespective of that, we get a live birth rate of 78.15%, where other treatments have failed. You know, I was talking to one of my professors at Harvard recently, and I went through it with her. She's a reproductive epidemiologist, and she was asking, she's like, oh my God, how do you do that? And she's asked me to be in her research team to be able to help to validate this process, because ultimately that's what it's required. You know, it works, and it absolutely works, because we've treated thousands and thousands of people in so many places around the world. But what happens is that there is not enough, proper, good quality research done to be able to show that there are many, many things that people can do. And the research that is available is not translated into evidence and effective clinical practice. And that's why I decided to do my master's in public health and clinical effectiveness at Harvard, because I went, you know what? We need to be able to tell this story in a much larger context to be able to help the millions, if not, you know, more, millions and millions and millions of people who go through this incredibly tiresome, challenging, expensive journey without realizing that they can actually help themselves in such a bigger way than what they realized to begin with. And so that's my passion. That's what I'm here for. That's why I do what I do. And, you know, this is also why, as I've said many times before, my retirement plan is, you know, doing a Facebook Live one day and just dropping dead on the ground, because there is a lot of work to be done in this context. You know, there's a lot of work that is still required for people to truly understand the reality of what to you is just like, yeah, of course, right? But when you first heard about it, or when you first got introduced, it was like, oh, really? You know, so I think that there's a lot to be said for people like you doing your homework and trusting the process. And it's beautiful that we get to be able to do this together. And, you know, and for anyone watching, you know, 43, donor sperm, natural conception, you know, like obviously unmedicated conception, you know, naturally is just amazing. So, and again, warrioress, because to choose to do this on your own, Kate, honestly, big high five to you, girl. Big high five to you.
It's not easy, but it's so worth it. And yeah, there's some hard days, but that's okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I'm very sure. So, my darling, any last words of wisdom that you'd like to leave us with today?
Gosh, I should have come up with a quote or something.
No, speak from the heart. Always better.
I just think that, yeah, people trust that you're in the right place. If you found Gabriela, you found her for a reason. I know that I did, and it's not 1 + 1 = 2 all the time. That sometimes you have to change your thinking a little bit, and like me, be challenged by what Gabriela's saying, and but then ultimately I've embraced that, and it's made huge differences in my relationships, in my work that I do, and obviously with my family, that I was able to have this very energetic child running around my house now.
It's absolutely beautiful, and you know, it's so heartwarming to be able to come full circle, you know, and figure out what has happened in this whole process. But Kate, honestly, thank you so much for giving of yourself and your time and sharing your story. It's, for me, I love when we're able to support people in your position, in your situation, and who basically know clearly that what they want and what they're going to do in order to get it. So good on you. And I think that it's absolutely beautiful. Cohen, you are a little delight and a little bright burning star. And I love that, you know, we get to be a part of each other's families from here on, my darling. So thank you so much for sharing, and we'll talk soon.
We will.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye for now.